Okay, let's begin. We're on Yud Amud Aleph. We're going to start on 10a4. Okay, Siman Ashi Lilmod, Ravina Lilamed. We're going to go back just a little bit and then continue forward. Ashi Lilmod, Ravina Lilamed. There's two opinions that are going to be communicated now in the pasuk. Okay, explanations in the pasuk, and the way to remember who said what is Ashi Lilmod. Ashi was about learning, and Ravina Lilamed, and Ravina was about teaching. Rav Ashi Amar Kol Ohev Lilmod Behamon Lo Tivua. Someone who loves, right? Who loves Lilmod, to learn Behamon, in with many, Lo Tivua. He is the one that receives the produce, receives the benefit. You learn with many people, you get many perspectives, you become wiser. So therefore, learning with people is very important, and learning with many people is even more important. A sword is on the badim, the ones that are alone, like from the word levad, v'no'alu, and they became simple or fools, or they lost their wisdom. What is that coming to communicate? A sword on the necks of the Talmidei Chachamim. We just say the haters of Talmidei Chachamim because we don't want to say a curse on or something bad about ourselves. So we say against our enemies, okay? But we're referring to ourselves. That they this sword belongs on their neck if they study Torah alone by themselves. Not only is it something which is not a positive thing, they become foolish. They lose the wisdom that they had. Not only do they not go forward, but they lose the wisdom that they had. Because it says over here, v'no'alu. The word says v'no'alu. What does v'no'alu mean? It says asher hatanu, asher no'alu, asher hatanu. Asher no'alu means that we have become simple, foolish, idiotic, moronic, okay? V'asher hatanu. V'lo'od ela shechotim. Not only do they become foolish, because the word no'alnu over there in that context means we become foolish. Not only that, but rather even further, because we even sin. Shneimar, in the same pasuk that says asher no'alnu, it also says v'asher hatanu. So the first thing happens is a person becomes foolish, they forget the wisdom that helps them make the right decisions. The second thing that happens is that they become people that do make the mistake of sinning. Another place where we could have learned the correct interpretation of the word v'no'alnu is no'alu sha'arei tzoan. Sarei tzoan, the leaders of tzoan became foolish. They made a foolish mistake. The Gemara continues. So that was Rav Ashi. Rav Ashi said it's important to learn with people as opposed to learning by yourself.
When he says someone bigger than you, charuta, teaching people.
It doesn't even say who. Just learning with somebody. Okay?
Learn by yourself.
On any level, don't learn by yourself. Exactly. Ravina says, "Kol ohev lelamed behamon."
Why does that just open it up for misinterpretation?
Sorry?
Amen. Does it open it up for misinterpretation? Why not alone?
Because you're not being challenged. Because if you made a mistake, no one could point it out. Because you're limited and stuck in your own perspective. Okay? You're asking a good question, Jonathan. And we'll see in just a second the second opinion, and then perhaps that will offer us a perspective looking backwards. The Gemara says, Ravina says, Kol, who is a person that gets this benefit, this produce, is a person who not just loves to learn with a multitude, with many people, but rather someone who loves to teach multitudes. This is what Rabbi said, much that I learned from my rabbis. And from my friends, I learned more than from my rabbis, because they were on my level. I could understand them. We could talk about things that were relevant in our own language. But from my students, from teaching to my students, yoter mikulam, by them challenging me, by me being forced to break it down into its simplest elements. So I wound up learning most from my students. So it turns out that if the second opinion, Ravina, is saying that the greatness comes from teaching those that are less than you, okay, it would seem that the first opinion, i.e. Rav Ashi, who's talking about learning, not teaching, would not be speaking about those that are less than you. He'd be talking about those that are your equals, or those that are more than you. The Gemara continues, okay? Amar Rabbi Yeshua ben Levi, Yeshua ben Levi says, "My dichtiv, what does it mean that it says, Omadot hayu raglim sha'arei Yerushalayim? Standing were our feet in the gates of Jerusalem. What is it coming to teach you? Mi garam leraglenu she'amdu milchama. What gave us the power of Omedot hayu raglenu, that we could stand on our own 2 feet, even when we were under attack, even when we were in war? What gave us that power to stand? Sha'arei Yerushalayim, the gates of Jerusalem, shayu oskim b'Torah. When it talks about the gates of Yerushalayim, it references the places of learning of Jerusalem. So therefore, we understand from over here that the Torah gave people the ability to stand in war, which is again a big part of what's contentious right now about people studying Torah, about the army, about if people studying Torah helps the army. So ironically, that this is what the Gemara is mentioning in this piece. The Gemara continues and says, Amar Rabbi Yeshua ben Levi, Yeshua ben Levi taught, "My dichtiv, what does it mean that it says, Shir ma'alot David, samachti ba'omrim li bet Amonai nelech." This was a song that David HaMelech sang. Samachti, I rejoiced, be'omrim li, when they told me, bet Amonai nelech, that we're going to go to the house of God. Funny that you read this pasuk and you never understand its origin source, what David HaMelech was actually saying in explaining this comment on rejoicing. I rejoiced when I heard them say, let's go to the house of God. Amad David lifnei HaKadosh Baruch Hu, David HaMelech said in front of God, Ribono shel olam, shamati b'nei adam shayu omrim, I heard people saying, Matai yamud zaken zeh, when is this older king already going to die? V'yavo Shlomo beno, and his son Shlomo will come, v'yivnei bet HaBechira, and will build the house of the Bet HaMikdash, v'na'aleh laregel, and we'll have a chance to be able to go up for the holidays to this Bet HaMikdash. Let me just explain. David HaMelech was a person who fought his whole life wars against the Philistine, wars against different factions that were coming against the Jewish people. Hashem says to David HaMelech, your hands are filled with blood. The person who was a warrior, even if it was for the sake of defending the state of Israel, Na'am Yisrael, and our interests, right? Still, that person can't be a person that builds a Bet HaMikdash, a house of peace. So David HaMelech, what did he do? He bought the plot. He bought the space where the Bet HaMikdash stands today. He bought it, he owned it, to start the process. Exactly. Like Moshe Rabbeinu, like the 3 cities.
Moshe Rabbeinu do?
Moshe Rabbeinu set aside the first 3 cities of refuge, even though they were on the other side of the Jordan, and they would not become relevant until the 3 cities of refuge were set up in Israel, because the Torah linked the 2. So you see that Moshe Rabbeinu wanted to get a jump on doing the mitzvah, even if he didn't know if he would be able to finish it. Or perhaps said more accurately, even though he knew he would never get the chance to finish it. So
he's a king. Why does he need to buy the land?
Who? David HaMelech? Yeah. Even the concept of Melech Poretz Lo Geder, that he's able to take it, right, generally means take it and replace it. Like the law of eminent domain. They're allowed to tell you, for the sake of the country, you need to vacate this premises. But they need to give you another place instead, okay? So David HaMelech purchases this land, and he owns the land now to be able to build the Beit HaMikdash. But Shlomo, David knew, everybody knew, that David was not going to build the temple. So David HaMelech says, Samachti be'omrim li, I rejoiced when I heard people say, Bet Amonai nelech, we want to go to the house of God. Even though I understood and I knew what they meant was, when will this guy die so that his successor can come and build a temple so we could go to the house of God for the regel. V'samachti, and even though they were hoping for my death, my demise, still I rejoiced in hearing them say that. Amalu HaKadosh Baruch Hu, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, God said to David HaMelech, listen to this, is unbelievable. God said, Ki tov yom bechatzerecha me'alef. Greater is a day in your courtyard, me'alef, from 1,000. What does that refer to? Tov li yom echad shata osek b'Torah. Greater is one more day of having David HaMelech in the world, learning Torah, lefanai, in front of me, me'elef olot she'atit Shlomo bencha la'akil lefanai agav mizbeach. Shlomo, in bringing the temple from the Mishkan to the Bet HaMikdash, he sacrificed on that day 1,000 sacrifices as a form of inauguration. So ki tov yom bechatzerecha, God says, I'd rather a day in your courtyard, i.e., in an unbuilt Bet HaMikdash, which is only a courtyard, with you, me'alef from the 1,000 korbanot of Shlomo HaMelech. By the way, we mention this. We say this by Mincha, right? Right? We read this. The Gemara continues.
That's wild.
Wild, really wild. The Gemara continues and says as follows: "Umechuvanot lahem derachim." Let's review the Mishnah one more time. The Mishnah told us that when you set aside these 6 cities, not only do you need to set aside the cities, you needed to map out and have direct routes, no stopping off in Pittsburgh or Dulles or any of these other airports, non-stop routes from all the cities of Israel to one of these cities of refuge, right? And we learned already in the Mishnah, where in the Torah does it communicate us? The Gemara continues. Tanya, we learn in the Brayta. Rabbi Eliezer ben Yaakov Omer. Rabbi Eliezer ben Yaakov said, "Miklat hayakatuv al parashat derachim." Every time there was a split in the road, anytime there was a split in the road, and you could have went instead of Ir Miklat to Deal, New Jersey. Okay, they were obligated to post a sign that would say this way and say on it the word Miklat. Okay. So the sign would say Miklat, telling you that don't make the wrong mistake and turn left when you should have turned right, or vice versa. In order that this accidental murderer should hear v'yifnei l'sham, and he should turn that way.
Let's get to murderer. They were talking about, they're talking about
Peace and then go to murder?
No, because
we're just talking about building the temple of Solomon and crossroads.
Over here we ended. And at this point, the Gemara is now going back to the Mishnah that's telling us that part of our responsibility as a society, right, is to make sure that the road to the Ir Miklat is not only that there's a path paved, cleared of obstruction, but also that if there's a place where you might lose your direction because there's a crossroads, that it's signposted with the word Miklat.
Speaking of Looney Tunes, if I'm the guy running, turning the sign the other way. Go that way.
I love you, Harry. That was great. Let me check. Rashi said, no, okay. Wiley E. Coyote, Acme sign. Okay. Wiley E. Coyote for sure builds a sign that just constantly revolves every 15 minutes. Okay. Amar Rav Kana says, Maikra, where does the Pasuk say this idea? Where did we learn this idea from? That all of a sudden we need to post signs now. Tachin lecha haderech. The pasuk says you have to prepare the way. So how do you prepare the way? Aseh lecha hachana ala derech. Make a way, make or prepare for the way. So in other words, for the direction, for the route that the guy is going to need to take, prepare for him that route. Okay, let's continue. The Gemara now is going to continue with an interesting sequence of ideas. Rav Chaim bar Chanina, patach lapitcha. He opened up his derasha. We actually had this already at the end of Masechet Ta'anit. A whole beginning with intro remarks. How did the rabbi start his, have you heard the one about the 3 guys who go into the bar? Okay. Rabbi Chaim bar Chanina opens up his speech. Patach lapitcha. Lahai parshata mehacha. He opened up with his teachings on this parasha, okay? Me'acha from here. Tov yashar amonai. God is good and straight. Correct. Al ken yoreh chataim badarech. Therefore, does he guide sinners on the way? What does it mean he guides sinners on the way? Im lachataim yoreh. Kal v'chomer l'tzadikim. If God guides the sinner, how much more so does he guide the saint?
My first second was the couple.
How beautiful is that? Rabbi Chaim bar Chanina used to teach when he was telling you about the signpost that God makes sure that the sinner knows the right way to go. How much more so for the person who's doing the right thing that God makes sure to guide that person in the right way. Rabbi Shimon ben Lakish.
That's the person who's chasing.
Yeah.
He's the Sadiq that he's trying to kill?
No. He's drawing a conclusion. Since he's about to teach you about having the roads prepared for the Rotzeach, having the signpost for the Rotzeach. Says Reb Chaim bar Chanina, Tov yashar amonai, right? God is good, God is just. Al ken nefo yoreh chataim badarech. He guides chataim. Who's the chataim? The Rotzeach, the murderer. If he's guiding a murderer, how much more so he's going to guide a guy who comes to breakfast in the class, or a guy who comes to Gemara class, right? So a beautiful way of looking at it. Rabbi Shimon ben Lakish, Rabbi Shimon ben Lakish, Resh Lakish used to say, Patach lapitcha, he would open up his dirasha on this portion, Lahai Pashat HaMe'acha, V'asher lo tzada, right? We talked about the guy who's an accidental murderer. He's a guy who was not sitting in an ambush trying to kill you. Hazit, the guy was painting the roof of his house. He was climbing up a ladder. V'ha'elohim ina liado. But God made sure that this other fellow was walking under the ladder at that moment, bringing these two people together in this tragic but guided non-coincidence. Ka'asher yomar Mishel hakadmoni merishaim yetzer resha, like the Mishal hakadmoni, the original mashal. What's this mashal kadmoni? What's it talking about? When we mention this, the original mashal, our rabbis explained to us that the Torah is referred to as the mashal kadmoni. Kadmon is the one that came first. Who came first? God, right? God comes before. What is his mashal, his way of teaching? Is the Torah. So it's a euphemism for the Torah. Kasher yomar mishal hakadmoni merishaim yetze resha. From wicked emanates wickedness. B'ma katuv medaber. What is the Torah talking about when it communicates from a wicked person comes wickedness? What does that mean? Pasuk in Yeshaya. Take a look at the side. You'll see it. You guys see it. Number Zayin on the inside. Ko amar Hashem. Ko alecha kadosh Israel. So does Hashem say, the one who redeems you, the Holy One of Israel. One second. Nope. I got the wrong one. Merishaim Yetzeresha Dalet. Kashe Yomar Mashal Kadmoni, right? It's in Shmuel Aleph. Merishaim Yetzeresha V'yadi lo tiyebach. From wicked people comes wickedness, but my hand will not be against you. What's the pasuk talking about? B'shnei bnei Adam, two people shahargu et hanefesh, that killed a soul. Echad harag b'shogeg, v'echad harag b'mezid. One person killed on purpose, one person killed by accident. Lezeh en edim. The one that killed by accident, there was no witnesses, and the one that killed on purpose, there was no witnesses. Which means that the guy who was supposed to go into galut, we can't send him to galut. He's just living his life, living his best life. The guy who was supposed to go get killed, we can't get him because there was no witnesses. He killed on purpose. So what does God do? Hakadosh Baruch Hu mazminan lepundak echad. God brings them to one place, one inn, one location, one corner. Zeh sharag b'mezid yoshev tachat hasulam. The advertent killer, the one that killed on purpose, he's underneath the ladder. Zeh sharag b'shogeg, the one that killed by accident, yored basulam, is coming down on the ladder, and this time with witnesses. V'nafal alav v'horgo, and he falls on him and he kills him. Zeh sharag b'mezid, the one that killed on purpose, what happens to him? He dies. V'zeh sharag b'shogeg, and the one that killed by accident, what punishment was he supposed to get? Galut. He gets galut because now God arranges that there's witnesses for that to transpire. Ultimately, what was supposed to happen will happen no matter what. I was thinking to myself earlier that we learned many times in the sugya up until this point that there's certain times when a person's supposed to get galut, certain times a person's supposed to get mitah, and we say, Hashem will take care of him. The whole of the story of galut, of this scenario, is exactly for this purpose, was to be able to arrange for that which was supposed to happen to this person to happen to this person. I was always left with a question though on this. Does that mean to say that every person who accidentally murdered also murdered on purpose? Right? Is that the case? Lots of times there's a terrible tragedy. Something happens by accident. Person never happened. The guy never killed anybody. On purpose or not by purpose? Not on purpose, right? So I think the communication over here is that we're trying to tell you that this is something that needs to be brought to bear for a previous reason. There might have been a time when this person, not in this lifetime even, committed this and needs this kapara, and is missing only this kapara from a previous life. They might have done something else that would be rectified by this galut. So all we're trying to bring out over here is that both the victim and the person who is the perpetrator in this scenario. In each case, there's a prior reason why the person finds themselves in this matter. Not only with regards to the person who did it on purpose, but also the person who did it accidentally, that was supposed to get a certain punishment or kapara.
Anytime that this happens with edim, that means there was a prior instance. Is that what this is leading to?
Yes, not necessarily, by the way, even in this lifetime, or not necessarily that specifically was the reason why I needed galut, but there is a reason why this happens. I just quoted recently the Gemara talks about Rav Huna, and they came to Rav Huna, and he lost 400 barrels of wine. They turned into vinegar, and they said to him, you really need to look at your actions. Like, what have you done wrong? And Rav Huna says, "What, you choshed me? You suspect me that I did something wrong? How can you suspect me? I'm a rabbi." So they said to him, "So what would you rather? That we suspect that God punished without a reason? So either you're guilty with no reason, right? Or he's guilty with no reason. If God did it, it must be that there's something here." So he said, he took their musar. He said, "If you know what I did wrong, speak. Tell me." They said, "We heard that you have a day worker who was supposed to get something, you didn't pay him." And the Gemara's explanation is that the guy really, again, not to go into it, but he didn't even deserve it, and he and there was but on his level, Rav Huna,
There was justification not to pay him.
he had a real halachic justification not to pay him, but according to Rav Huna's level, he should have gone above and beyond, and he should have paid him. Anyway, Rav Huna accepts it, and he pays him. And then what happens in the end? The Gemara has two opinions.
The vinegar turned back to wine.
Either the vinegar turned back to wine for first opinion,
Or he was sold the vinegar.
or no, the second is that the value of vinegar skyrocketed.
Right.
So those two opinions. Either way, the point is that his loss wound up being turned around.
Yeah.
Okay? So what's fascinating to me is not actually the end of the story. A lot of people are like, "Oh, and then?" The punchline for me is not the end of the story. The punchline for me is when the guy is like, "What did I do wrong?" Realize that when you're saying that something is happening to you and you've done nothing wrong, you're accusing Hashem of doing something wrong.
Oh my God.
Yes.
Right? You realize that. It's just, there's this moment in the Gemara which is just like, that is a heart-stopping moment.
But it took someone else to tell him what he did wrong.
Correct. A lot of times we don't realize. But we have to be open. So many times we'll have that blind spot.
This was in your class the other day.
This is my class, yeah, this is my class the other week, right? But that's exactly my point. My point is that a person needs to be able to listen, to hear to other people and accept what they've told him. Okay, let's continue. Says the Gemara, if you do that, then you lose your blind spots because you have someone, helping you looking at it from another angle. Okay, says the Gemara. Amar Rav Huna, Amar Rabba bar Rav Huna, Amar Rav Huna. Rabba, the son of Rav Huna, said the name of his father. Some people say Rav Huna and then Rav Elazar. We learn this idea from the Torah and from the prophets and from the writings, from the later writings after the Nevi'im. Okay, in the way that a person wants to go by, right? They take this person. Whatever road you want to travel, Hashem will help you travel that road. Mina Torah, what do we see in Torah? The Torah says, "Dechtiv lo telech imahem." It says about Bil'am, God says to Bil'am, "Don't go with them. Don't go. You want to go curse the Jews? Don't go." Right?
Right.
Uchtiv, and yet it says, what happens afterwards? Kum lech. Kum lech idam. Get up, go with them. How does God say on day one, don't go with them? Then Bil'am has, stay over the night, Bil'am asks again. Hashem's like, "Fadal, go." Do you want him to go or not want him to go? The answer is Hashem says, "I don't want you to go. But if I see that you're trying to figure out ways that you really want to go and you want to go, no problem." Free, exactly. Free will thing. But it's more than free will. It's not just that God says, okay. It's that God will help the person along that path. So here Bil'am wanted to do something negative. Right? So it's not just in a positive way. Hashem says, okay, Fadal. Min ha-nevi'im, from the prophets, T'chtiv, Ani Hashem Elohecha, milamedecha leho'il. I am Hashem your God. I teach you, right? Leho'il, for that which is good for you. Okay? So, even though HaKadosh Baruch Hu says, I'm going to teach you the right way, Madrichacha b'derech zutelech. But I guide you on the path that you want to go. What? So are you taking me, God, on your path? Or are you taking me on my path? The answer is, even though God guides a person to go in the right way, when a person decides they want to go in another way, Hashem says, no worries, I'll guide you, I'll take you down that path too. I'll help you go down the negative path as well. Okay? Because otherwise, the free will is not there. Because if I saw every time I try to do something that was not the right thing, I saw everything was blocked in front of me, I would never do the wrong thing.
So it's like he's helping the Rasha to be Rasha.
Yes, you choose.
If he wants to be.
If that's what you want.
To be Rasha.
Yeah.
Then is he going to help you make full circle?
If you then choose to make full circle, yeah. So the desire for teshuvah is the precursor for teshuvah, yeah?
But when you're trying to work on something, there's like the initial phase, the initial couple days or the beginning where you're able to overcome or try to make changes, but then there's going to be a point where there's a pull to go back, to deviate to the norm.
Well, the question is not whether or not there's a pull, but whether or not there's a desire from yourself to follow that pull. So in other words, the fact that somebody has some form of desire to do something wrong, that's almost a natural occurrence, that human beings have urges and have desires. The question is not whether a person has a desire, it's, do I want to chase that desire? So you could have a tzaddik that sees a beautiful woman and is struck by her beauty and there's desire there. But what does he want? He wants that desire to not be there. He wants to not do the wrong thing. He wants to look away. He wants to not react to it. So his ratzon is not his desire. That's his ta'ava. Clear? Okay? I'll never forget, one of my students he was dealing with a very difficult thing. He had a very difficult challenge in life in terms of what his lifestyle choices were. And he said to me, Rabbi, I want to go to yeshiva. I said, what does yeshiva mean to you? And he said, yeshiva is a place where a person learns to subjugate their desires to their will. I was blown away that a young person could understand that that's what learning and religion and becoming someone who was holy was really all about. To subjugate your desires to your will, to your values. Magnificent. Okay. Dichtiv. Okay, says the Gemara, Dichtiv, how do we know? Mina Ketuvim, where do we see it in Ketuvim? For it says, Im laletzim hu yalitz. Right? Yeah. If the guy wants to go to a place where everyone's making fun, okay, you're going to do that too. Lanavim. But if a person goes to the anavim, to those that are humble, that are modest, yiten chen, God gives that person chen, the gift of grace. Amar Rav Huna. So what is this? Why? What are we communicating here? Why is this something that's related to what we're teaching? The answer is that just like we wound up teaching a second ago, that a person who finds himself in this situation was led to this situation by his previous actions, right? So this accidental murderer and this purposeful, premeditated murderer find themselves in one inn. One guy on the ladder, one guy chilling, having his sandwich underneath the ladder, okay? How did that happen? And the answer was that God guided them to that place. On that, Rav Huna is teaching this concept that HaKadosh Baruch Hu takes people to where they as people are choosing to go. You're a murderer? No problem. I'll take you right down that path. And you will find yourself, in this new circumstance. Let's continue. Amar Rav Huna says, Rotzech shegalal ir miklat. Let's say you have a person who's a murderer that went to a ir miklat, to one of these cities of refuge. Umitzao goel adam v'hargo. Now the goel adam comes into the city and he kills him. Right? Patur. Sorry, on the way. On the way. He didn't go into the city. He's on the way to the city. He kills him on the road. Patur. Kasavar, he understood, okay? Rav Huna understood, Velo en mishpat mavet, right? Begoel adam udichtiv. What it's referring to is, it says that a person is in exile, and the pasuk says, Velo, and to him, en mishpat mavet. There is no judgment of murder. Rav Huna understood that pasuk is talking to whom? It's saying to the Goel Adam, the family member of this person that he killed, listen, this guy, there's no murder penalty. En lo mishpat mavet. That's how he understood the pasuk. So anyone that gets to the accidental murder before he gets to the city of refuge, he's what's it called? He's absolved from killing him. Gemara says, Metve, 1 second, the Braita says, Velo mishpat mavet, birotzeach hakatuv medaber. The pasuk is telling us, Velo en mishpat mavet, meaning that if I'm on my way to the city of refuge, you can't kill me.
It goes against everything we understood.
So, in other words, the Braita seems to be saying the opposite of what we understood, which is what Rav Huna just said. Okay, we understood according to Rav Huna. The Braita says, what do you mean? It's talking about the Rotzeach, that if I accidentally murdered someone, and the Bet Din says you have to go to Galut, the halacha is that while I'm on my way, velo en mishpat mavet. You can't kill me if I'm on my way to the Ir Miklat. Okay. Says the pasuk, says the Braita, Ata omer berotzeach. You want to say that it's referring to the rotzeach, to the murderer, or eno elo begoel adam. Maybe it's talking to the goel adam, to the family member, that you are not going to be punished if you kill him. Okay, like Rav Huna said, Kishu Omer, says the Braita, when the pasuk continues and says, V'hu lo soneh lo mitmol shilshom, and he did not hate him yesterday and 2 days before. Havi Omer berotzeach hakatuv medaber. Obviously, it's talking about or to the rotzeach, right? So the Braita seems to be saying not like Rav Huna. Let's just take a look at the Pesukim, and you'll see exactly what the Braita means. The Braita is saying as follows. Yeah, you see, source number 9, tet, in the inside column. Maybe the Goel Adam will run after the murderer. Because his heart will be hot. And he'll catch up to him. For the road is very long. And he'll hit him. And he does not have, it seems to be open, it could be interpreted either way. Because he did not hate him from 2 days ago and from 3 days ago, from yesterday and 2 days ago. Says the Braita, you're right, velo en mishpat mavet, and to him there is no penalty of death. Could be going either way. But when the pasuk then continues and says, and he, leaving it again open, and he did not hate him yesterday and the day before, that's referring to the accidental murderer. So if we're now referring to accidental murder at the end of the pasuk, obviously the middle part is also referring to him.
Can't the same thing be said about the person chasing? He didn't hate him yesterday or the day before because his heart wasn't hot.
But that's not the question. The Goel Adam, whether the Goel Adam hates him or not, is not relevant. Like as an example, let's say this Reuven killed Shimon accidentally. Okay? Now, the Goel Adam has a right to kill him. Do we ask if the Goel Adam hated him yesterday or not?
No.
No, it's not relevant. So the end of the pasuk is not referring to the Goel Adam, for sure not.
Oh, because of that, it can't be.
Right. Okay? So it has to be referring to whom? The Rotzeach, the accidental murderer. Which means that the middle pasuk saying, and for him there is no death penalty, is saying
Same thing about Reuven.
that you can't kill him.
He was not a walking dead man, so he could basically take a leisurely walk to the Ir Miklat.
To the Ir Miklat. So Rav Huna, you say lo mishpat mavet means that he's a dead man walking right now, so you're allowed to take him out until he gets to the Ir Miklat. But the end of the pasuk is referring to the Rotzeach. So it stands to reason that the middle part of the pasuk is referring to the Rotzeach as well, not to the Goel Adam. Right? Everyone understand this bit? Yeah? Clear? Okay. So the Braita seems to be going against Rav Huna. Huda Amar, Gemara says you're absolutely right. That is what's it called? The explanation of the Braita. But he, Rav Huna, the Amar, he learns Kihaitana, a different Tana that it says, the Tanya that he said in the Braita, Velo mishpat mavet, and to him there's no death penalty. Bigo el adam hakatuv medaber. There's another Braita where another one of the Tanaim learns exactly like Rav Huna does, and he says that it means it's referring to the Goel Adam hakatuv medaber. You want to say, ask the Braita, the same format. You want to say it's referring to the Goel Adam to tell you that the Goel Adam, the Redeemer, is allowed to kill and he doesn't get punished for killing him. How do you know? Maybe Ela berotzeach. Maybe it's talking about the Rotzeach. Kishu Omer, when it says Kilo Sonehu Lo Mitmol Shushon, when it says at the end of the pasuk, and he did not hate him yesterday and 2 days ago, Hare Rotzeach Amur. The Rotzeach and his innocence is stated. Why do I need another pasuk to tell me, right, that the Rotzeach is not worthy of getting killed? You hear?
One more time.
Oh,
you're saying Pen Yirdof Goel Adam. So by saying he's a Goel Adam, you're already saying that he's not.
No, if the end part is talking about the Rotzeach, saying, listen, the guy didn't intend to kill him, right? What would that tell you? That therefore you should not be able to kill him without getting the death penalty yourself, right? Because this guy is innocent. He did not do this on purpose. So when the end of the pasuk tells you that, I don't need you. If you would have cut out the middle, if it was talking about the Rotzeach to say you're not allowed to kill him, and then tells you that you're not allowed to kill him because he didn't do it on purpose. So those two things say the same thing. If I needed to tell you, Lo en mishpat mavet, in the middle, then it must mean that the middle and the end are talking to two different people. One more time. If all you were trying to tell me is that the Rotzeach is innocent and you're not allowed to kill him, what would have happened if I would have skipped the middle of the pasuk?
It would have been the same result.
It would have been the same result. You see? So the way you're learning, says this Tana in the Braita, the middle part of the pasuk is unnecessary. Because the end of it tells me that he's innocent, which therefore would mean you're not allowed to kill him. So you could have cut out the middle and had the same result. Therefore, if you put in the middle, it must not be telling you that you can't kill him. It must be telling you that you can. Kilo en mishpat mavet. And it's talking to the Goel Adam and not the Rotzeach. Hamani mekayem v'lo en mishpat mavet b'goel hakatuv b'goel Adam hakatuv medaber. The Torah was talking to the Goel Adam. Okay? Es Gemara. 1 second. Let's look at the Mishnah. The Mishnah says, Tanan, we give over 2 Talmidei Chamim. Maybe the guy's going to get killed on the way. And they should speak to him and talk him off the ledge. My love, the matrube, doesn't it? The reason why we have 2 Talmidei Chachamim, so that they could give him hatra'ah, so that when Bedin then brings this guy in, we have 2 witnesses and we could kill him. Bar ketalahu, the ikatil, that if he kills Bar ketalahu, he himself then gets killed. So in other words, it's not a crime that you don't get punished for. When I says lo, that's not what it means. Kedetanya, it's trying to say something else. They speak to him in a way that he needs to be spoken to. They say, don't deal with him, don't become a killer. The guy did it by accident. So they try and talk him down off the ledge. Their purpose is not to be witnesses, their purpose is to talk him down off the ledge. Rabbi Meir says, the guy himself, he speaks up on his own behalf. He tells him, I did not want to do this on purpose. Like it says, these are the words of the Rotzeach. We already saw all of this. They said to him, the Chachamim said to Rabbi Meir, more is accomplished if the people say it on his behalf than if he says it on his behalf. Why? Imagine someone kills a relative, the person's relative by accident, and then you come after him and you're so angry, and the guy says, listen, I wasn't on purpose. The fact that you're not owning it, the fact that you're minimizing what you did, makes the person even angrier. So if you open up your mouth and try to defend yourself by saying that it wasn't on purpose, you might make the guy even angrier than before. So therefore we give that job to somebody else, and we let you only say sorry. But the purpose is not for hatra'ah, okay? So therefore, the question that you have from the Mishnah is not a question, because the 2 people are not coming to give him hatra'ah.
Well, why would it be hatra'ah anyway? Because he's allowed to kill him. So what's the difference?
No, that was the whole question. If we find that you send 2 people, which means clearly in the Gemara's mind that that's so that we have witnesses. What do you need witnesses for? The guy's allowed to kill him, and if he kills him, witnesses are not going to witness anything, right? On that, the Gemara answers, the two witnesses are not the witness, that to communicate this lack of thing to him. Amar Mar, the Gemara says, explains the Braita, Happy Mother's Day. Amar Mar, the Gemara explains, Bishgaga, Ba Maaseh liado. It happened by accident. Pshita, Di'ib mezid bar galutu. 1 second. You need the two people to say that it was by accident? If it was on purpose, then the guy would not be going into galut. We'd be executing him. The Gemara says, yes. There's cases, right, where even the person who did it on purpose goes to galut. V'hatanya, really? V'hatanya, didn't we learn the Braita? Rabbi Yossi, Rabbi Yehuda Omer, Rabbi Yossi says, Batichila, in the beginning, echad shogeg v'echad mezid, everyone goes. If a murder was committed on purpose or by accident, everyone goes to the Ir Miklat. Magdimin le'Ir Miklat. What happens afterwards? Ubetin shochin b'vin otam misham. The betin, when they're ready to try the case, goes and gets him, from that place. Mishin t'chayev mita. The person that was supposed to be killed, haragu. They execute him. Shneimar v'shalchu ziknei irov lakchu oto misham. That the elders come and they send and they get him from there. V'natanu oto b'yad goel adam v'met. And they deliver him to the Goel Adam, Vamet, okay? Misha lo nitchayev, pitaru, the one that was not obligated to be executed, pitaru, they let him go. Shneimar v'tzilo ha'edat rotzeach miyad goel adam, and they'll save him from the hands of the goel adam. So in other words, if the person is obligated, but we cannot kill him, right? So then we release him, so to speak, to the mercy of the goel adam, because only he could take revenge. In the case where he's not chayav, the guy is completely patur, then we make him patur and we save him from them. Mishin et chayev galut, someone who's obligated galut, machzirin oto lemkomo. We return him right back to the place that he came from. Shneimar v'shivu oto ha'eda ela ir miklato asher nas shama. We get him back to that place. Rebbe says, me'atzman hen golin. What does this mean? From the beginning, they go themselves into galut. They run. Kisfurin hen echad shogeg ve'echad mezid koltot. Because they think that the Ir Miklat is a safe space for a person who killed no matter what. But they don't know sheshogeg koltot b'mezid enan koltot. That the only thing that a Ir Miklat helps for is for when you did it accidentally, but not on purpose. But Rebbe explains that there is no protection afforded by the Ir Miklat, even in that initial stage, and the only reason why they're running there is because they don't know any better. So we now have the opinion of Rabbi Yossi, Rabbi Yehuda that we saw earlier, but we also have the additional idea of Rebbe, where Rebbe is explaining that this running post-murder to this place actually comes from faulty logic and faulty reasoning, and actually you don't really, it's not going to help you at all if you're a mezid in that place. Okay?
Rabbi, can you summarize again the two opinions on the pasuk, the Pen Yirdof, Goel Hadam?
What do you mean?
We discussed before that it's talking about, because the end of the pasuk is talking about the Rotzeach, then it must be the beginning, and then the other opinions said differently. Could you just put it?
Yes, sure. So let's just review. Rav Huna brought this idea that if a person is an accidental murderer and he's on his way to the Ir Miklat, he's fair game. You could kill him and no problem. You don't get punished for it. Okay, and he's only safe once he's in the city. But there's no idea that the guy is allowed safe passage to the city. No such idea. Okay?
According to Rav Huna.
Rav Huna says that. And what is his proof? Because it says, Ve'lo en mishpat mavet. He does not have a death penalty on him. And he translates that's going on the Goel Adam. The Gemara asks, what do you mean? We have a Braita that says explicitly that that pasuk is not talking to the Goel Adam. You, Goel Adam, you won't get punished if you do this. Rather, it's talking to the Rotzeach. It's saying, Rotzeach, you killer, okay? you do not get the death penalty. You know why? Because you didn't do it on purpose. So therefore, no one is allowed to kill you on the way to the Ir Miklat. That's how the Braita says it. So we have a Braita that says the opposite of Rav Huna. Answers the Gemara, you're right, but we also have another Braita that says exactly the opposite, which is exactly in line with what Rav Huna says. What does that Braita say? Lo mishpata bechora is talking to the Goel Adam. You, lo mishpat mavet. You do not have the death penalty if you execute this guy who inadvertently killed a family member. Why is that the case? How do we know? Maybe it's talking to the Rotzeach. The Gemara asks this as a question. What's your proof? He answers because at the end of the pasuk, it's definitely talking about the Rotzeach. And in that spot, it says that you did not kill on purpose. You didn't hate him yesterday and the day before. So if you already told me that you don't deserve to die because you didn't do it on purpose, you don't have to tell me in the middle you don't deserve to die if it's talking about the Rotzeach. Right? Because I would have been able to know that you can't kill that guy if you just put the last part of the pasuk. The last part of the pasuk says the guy did not kill on purpose, telling you that you can't kill him. So what did we gain by putting in the middle? It must be that middle piece, and he does not have a judgment of death, right? Lo mishpat mavet. He does not get a death penalty. Must be referring to the Goel Adam. The first opinion says, no, for the sake of synonymous approach, the end of the pasuk says, Vehu, it's talking about the Rotzeach. Stands to reason that the middle part is also talking about the Rotzeach. So one of the Braitot would rather have the synonymous subject of the pasuk remain unchanged. Rotzeach, Rotzeach. The second approach says, well, there has to be a chidush in the middle part. And if we would have just said the end, I would have known it anyway. So therefore, the middle part is talking to the Goel Adam, not the Rotzeach. And if that's the case, so it's telling you, Goel Adam, there's no death penalty for you if you kill him. So Rav Huna now has a Tana that he's following a different Braita. The other Braita says differently than Rav Huna. And then the last Braita was bringing down all the eventualities of people that run to the Ir Miklat and teaching you that this is the process. Initially they go, then we bring them back, and then we decide. If we have the ability to kill them, we have the ability to kill them. If we don't have the ability to kill them, but they did it on purpose, we release them, and then the Goel Adam is able to come and take revenge, okay? If the person is completely patur, then we basically protect him from the Goel Adam, and we state that he's patur, and we save him from being killed, not just by us in terms of a punishment, but also by the Goel Adam, by explaining that the guy is actually innocent. And then we found Rebbe, and Rebbe said, look, the reason why everyone runs is not because they have to. The reason why everyone runs is because they think it'll save them. But actually, the Ir Miklat only saves people that are accidental murderers. That's what we did up until here. We'll continue from 10b3 Be'ezrat Hashem in next class. Baruch Hanei Le'olam. Amen.